Christ, I could really do with replacing this webcam and get a shave while I'm at it. Fuck it, I can't be bothered. Can't be bothered with that. Got YouTube content to make. That's more important to me. So, Assassin's Creed Syndicate didn't have multiplayer. Assassin's Creed Origins won't have multiplayer either. So that's 2 games in 3 years, something like that, 2015 to 2017, where Assassin's Creed basically hasn't had multiplayer. Now, they removed it from Syndicate because obviously they weren't going to continue with any online services after Unity. They wanted to remove their focus. And also, they only really released Syndicate because it was so far in development by the time they realised that they'd fucked up with Unity. But they thought, we may as well release this anyway and then revise our plan for the next game, which was Origins. Now, of course, Assassin's Creed Unity had multiplayer in its co-op thing, but that wasn't received very well because, let's be honest, it was a cool concept executed in the most boring way possible. But a lot of fans, and I mean a load of fans, have noticed that since Assassin's Creed 3, really, the story has been stalling to no end. It hasn't been going anywhere. So, with Assassin's Creed Syndicate and Origins, they took a step back from the multiplayer to focus on healing the single player, and we all know how that turned out with Syndicate, which was on the bit. So they need to focus more. So they've removed basically online services that, such as multiplayer. I think there will be online services that are minimal, but with multiple save slots returning, it looks as if this could be the fix to it all, where they focus on the story in Assassin's Creed Origins with no multiplayer attachments, and then they might probably find a way to put multiplayer in further on down the line, which should probably mean returning to the good old PvP multiplayer, which was actually good. However, what's the problem here is I do believe that there is an Assassin's Creed multiplayer community. I have interacted with a couple of its members before, and they seem like pretty reasonable people. However, I do feel as if they are growing impatient. I can understand why. I mean, we haven't had an actual good multiplayer system since Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, with the multiplayer as a separate entity to the game itself, and it was PvP, which people seem to like. The multiplayer community seems to be really into that. But it has been 4 years since then. I understand why everybody's a bit impatient, but you have to understand that they only really figured out with Unity that things aren't going their way, and then they had to revise it over a year plan, or a few years planning, to get it to where it is now, which is to focus on fixing the story first. And once they've done that, once they've found a formula that works, they'll be able to do it quicker and more effectively in the future. And then from there, what will happen is they'll probably consider introducing multiplayer again, hopefully in PvP with a new engine or whatever. But the thing is that at the moment they're focusing on the story because they know that if they mess this up again, then Assassin's Creed is dead on the water. So for now they want to focus on the core elements of Assassin's Creed, which doesn't really go far outside the story and the open world. But I feel as if in the long run Ubisoft will want to reintroduce multiplayer to Assassin's Creed, which, if it's done right, which I think the PvP route is the right route, it could go well. The reason why I don't think Ubisoft has put multiplayer in Assassin's Creed Origins is because they really do not want to mess up, because like I said, they know that if they do, Assassin's Creed is basically dead on the water. Now you might argue that the multiplayer wouldn't affect the single player, surely. Well, you see, that's where you're somewhat wrong, because they have to dedicate assets, they have to dedicate people to make the multiplayer, they have to dedicate an entire section just to the multiplayer, and that's surely going to take away from the main game, because resources, for one, money, other things that they could use for things that they could do to improve the story and things like that. Once they've got it figured out and they're not testing or anything, then they'll be fine. Then they can focus on dedicating resources and other assets to a multiplayer, which would be great. But for now, they're trying to figure out what works for the game's story. I think they've done that, so that's what Origins is about, them trying to figure out what works, so that in the future that they can start to reintroduce multiplayer, and then everybody will be happy. The thing is, when a franchise gets into a big depression, there's games that are basically stale, that everything's fatigued, they've got multiplayer focus, and then they have to remove that focus to get back to the core elements of the game. What people don't understand is there's no quick fix for that. You have to fix everything slowly but surely. With Syndicate, it was fixing the glitches. With this, it's fixing the story. With the next game, I reckon that'll probably be when they start to consider multiplayer again. I could be wrong, and they could think, oh, multiplayer just doesn't work for Assassin's Creed, and they might never do it again. But like Ashraf Ismail did say, they are listening to the fans, So if the fans constantly ask for multiplayer and they say Assassin's Creed Origins was cool, but I reckon it could have done with some multiplayer and things like that, then they know that the next game they can just put their heart and soul into the main game as well, with the formula that they know works, and then put the multiplayer in as well. That's what I think they'll do. But I do think that a lot of people who are really into Assassin's Creed's PvP multiplayer or whatever want the multiplayer to return, but they think that just because it's not returning yet in Origins, that it's not returning at all, when I don't really think that's the case. Ubisoft cannot keep their grubby mitts off of online things. So as far as the long run is concerned, I don't think you really have to worry about them avoiding multiplayer forever, because eventually they'll throw it back in, because like I said, Ubisoft is Ubisoft. They'll probably never change. And like I said, I know there's a multiplayer community out there that really likes the PvP stuff in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, Revelations 3 and 4, but to be able to throw in the multiplayer again, they've first got to make sure that the main part of Assassin's Creed, in their eyes, the story, is working and functional. Afterwards, they can throw in the multiplayer and everybody can have their fun again. But the bottom line is, healing a franchise will not happen overnight. No matter how hard you beg, they cannot do everything at once. They're trying to listen to fans, so that means that multiplayer probably will return in the long run. However, listening to fans also means prioritising what certain fans want over others in that small little step at the start, really. What the majority of fans want is probably an increase in the, I don't know how to word this. They want a better single player, alright? They want a better single player. That's what the majority of fans probably want, is a better single player, better open world, things like that they're focusing on now. Afterwards, they're right, okay, now that we've done that and we've pleased those fans, now we can just take this formula that works and we can flip it around a bit, do some stuff with it, and make another game that's just as good, hopefully. And at the same time, we can probably dedicate some resources and an entire team to the multiplayer, because we don't have to test with these things, see what works, see what doesn't anymore. And thus, a multiplayer will be born, and multiplayer will be back, and then in that sense, everybody will be happy, hopefully. Now, I do understand that Ubisoft have been known to not make the best choices when it comes to their creative decisions, but like with any other company, we have to give them the benefit of the doubt for the time being. So hopefully I helped you figure out what's going up, what's happening with Assassin's Creed Origins, why there's no multiplayer, things like that. Just from my perspective, I reckon they will reintroduce multiplayer later on down the line. Like I said, Ubisoft are Ubisoft, they'll never change. They love getting their hands on multiplayer, and they'll probably get around to doing it at some point. So you don't have to worry about that for now. All you have to do is be patient, that's all I can say. I understand why the Assassin's Creed's multiplayer community, the people who really love the multiplayer, would be in this position of, well, I really, really want to play a good multiplayer in Assassin's Creed again. It's been 4 years now since the last multiplayer that I enjoyed. I'm just going off what they might think here. I can understand why they might be starting to get a little bit impatient, but I do implore that you continue to be patient, because I do believe that Ubisoft will wind up going back down the multiplayer path again, hopefully when the story is in a better place and the open world is in a better place and things like that. And then the game will hopefully be good and will not see any losses as a result of introducing the multiplayer segment. Right now, all it is it's taking a little bit of understanding and a little bit of patience, mixing it in a tea and taking a massive gulp, because right now we need to let Ubisoft do their thing. Let them try to reinvent Assassin's Creed. It's basically what they're doing. They're trying to reinvent Assassin's Creed, and eventually they'll do it what they did the first time when they introduced multiplayer. They'll introduce it in a later game in a way that's maybe reinvented itself. Maybe a new form of the PvP thing with a new engine, who knows? Maybe something else entirely. But like I said, Ubisoft will wind up returning to multiplayer, because Ubisoft is Ubisoft. But for now, let's just give them the benefit of the doubt, right? So, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, share, comment, and I'll see you all in the next one with another video. So yeah. I always hit my head on these panels, so I don't think they really enjoy it.